The Pittsburgh Steelers came into this 2022 NFL season with some playoffs expectations, even post the Ben Roethlisberger era. And after 4 games of this 2022 NFL season, the Pittsburgh Steelers sit at 1-3, coming off of a bad loss at home to the New York Jets, who are a rebuilding football team. After 4 weeks of the season, with the Steelers sitting at 1-3, somewhere where a lot of people didn't expect them to be coming into the year, is it time to panic in Pittsburgh amongst all the things that have been going on, not just only on offense, but on defense as well? But I will discuss that in today's video. But before I do, make sure you guys leave this video a like, as it always helps this channel to grow and it beats the YouTube algorithm. And if you are not subscribed, go ahead, click the subscribe button and notification bell so you will not miss any of the content that I post on this channel. Let's talk about the Steelers. Without further ado, let's dive into it. The Pittsburgh Steelers are led by head coach Mike Tomlin, who in his 15 seasons as the Pittsburgh Steelers head coach has not finished with a record under 500 in his career. And with the Steelers off to a 1-3 start and how things are looking on both sides of the football, especially offensively for this team, that streak can very much well be in jeopardy. Now, to replace Ben Roethlisberger, the Pittsburgh Steelers ended up signing former Bear and former Bills quarterback Mitchell Trubisky to a 2-year deal. And throughout the first 4 games of this year, Trubisky has not necessarily looked great. The team has a 1-3 record as we stand right now with him as a starter. He's completed 59% of his passes for 653 yards with only 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Trubisky has not necessarily looked great this year, and that is why midway through the 3rd quarter of the Jets game this past week, he was replaced by first-round pick Kenny Pickett, who ended up throwing 3 interceptions in his own right for 120 yards and no touchdowns. He did have 2 rushing touchdowns throughout the game. You can attribute the Pittsburgh Steelers' offensive struggles to a lot of things, the quarterback not only being the main one. There are other factors. The offensive line has not been able to block well for Najee Harris. They have struggled with drops, whether it's Diontae Johnson, whether it's Chase Claypool. This offense has struggled to move the football. The offensive line has not been great. The running game has not been great. And the running game for the Pittsburgh Steelers is a staple throughout his franchise and a staple throughout the way that this offense is built. And it's not really been necessarily great, and that has thrown off the entire rhythm of this Pittsburgh Steelers offense. Now, of course, Mitchell Trubisky has not been great. He has not been good for this football team. He was not brought in to be the savior, and the running game was something that had to be going for this team to find some success offensively, and it has not been there at all. Passing game hasn't been there either. The receivers have struggled with drops. They have not really been getting open, and the offensive line has struggled to protect the quarterback. Second-year tight end Freiermuth, who was slated to have a bigger year, has not really made that much of an impact, especially being a young quarterback's best friend and a struggling quarterback's best friend. He has not been really too much involved in this offense, and that is another factor that hurts this Pittsburgh Steelers football team. This offense is built to have successful running game and call the offensive passing game based off of it, and it just hasn't been there for this football team. Najee Harris has ran the football hard, he has ran the football physical, but there have just not been a lot of open holes for him to run through, and that is why this offense has particularly struggled to move the football and has particularly struggled to put points on the board to keep themselves in ball game. Now, on the defensive side of the ball for the Pittsburgh Steelers, the one thing that they have done, they have created turnovers and they have gotten their football back for their offense. They have not been able to get out of the quarterback, however, as if the big part of their defense, reigning defensive player of the year, TJ Watt, who went down in week 1 with a torn pectoral muscle, has been out ever since, and this pass rush has struggled. Cam Heyward up the middle has been still a stellar, fantastic player. Minkah Fitzpatrick is still creating havoc. throughout the back end of the defense. The Steelers defense is built to put pressure on the quarterback, so those corners won't have to be on islands for very long. And when their defense really isn't getting after the quarterback like you anticipated, that leaves the quarterback in the pocket longer, and he is able to pick throughout holes in your zone defense, and he is able to have success when you're not getting after him, and he's not afraid of getting hit. This Pittsburgh Steelers team throughout the course of these first 4 games has had a ton of struggle, and I believe it is time to panic a little bit in Pittsburgh, especially with the transition to a young rookie quarterback and Kenny Pickett. When you have a team that is built like the way the Pittsburgh Steelers have, it does kind of fit into a young quarterback's hands. It's built to run the football. It's built to play fantastic, stout defense. But neither the running game and the defense has been there. And there's probably going to put a lot more pressure on Kenny Pickett to have success throughout the passing game. Now, Kenny Pickett, in my opinion, I don't personally believe he's ready to start just yet. But with Mr. Trubisky looking as bad as he has throughout the first 4 weeks of the season, they have no option and no choice but to turn to a guy like Kenny Pickett, who they drafted in the first round. And when you draft a quarterback like this in the first round, there's no way you're turning back, and you cannot turn back at this point. Once you go to him, you have to stick with him, and he has to get his reps, and he has to develop. It's just this Pittsburgh Steelers roster, as built now, doesn't necessarily have the window and the time to sit and let a young quarterback develop. Now, it was a smart choice to draft Kenny Pickett. It was a good choice for this Pittsburgh Steelers team going forward. But if you're thinking about the now, it may not necessarily work for this season because of the window of opportunity that this team has to capitalize on some of those aging players like a Cam Heyward, some of your pieces on your offensive line. You do have a young wide receiving core, but with the defense built and the defense is a little bit older in the tooth, this team has a success window that is small, and it may not be fit for a rebuilding quarterback. Even though Mike Tomlin, in my personal belief, I believe is one of the best coaches in football, and I personally think he's my favorite coach in football. The way he leads men and the way he's able to get this team to have success no matter the injuries, no matter what happens. This Pittsburgh Steelers team may have just ran its course as far as the defense ready to win now and an offense that is still growing, that is still struggling to move the football. So is it time to panic with the Pittsburgh Steelers right now? In my personal opinion, I will say yes. If you're trying to keep that 15 season under 500 streak alive, you're trying to keep your playoff chances alive, it does help that the rest of the division sits at 2-2. The Bengals, the Browns, and the Ravens all sit at 2-2. So it does help that you still have that. But the way that this Pittsburgh Steelers team look on the field, it does spell a little bit of trouble going forward, especially if TJ Watt is out for any length or longer period of time. That pass rush needs to get home. They are creating turnovers, but the offensive line on offense needs to be better. The running game has to get going, and you have to find some success in the passing game now that you have Kenny Pickett that is going to take over the quarterback realm. It is time to panic in Pittsburgh, in my opinion. But that is all I have to say. Make sure you guys leave this video a like, as it always helps this channel to grow and it beats the algorithm. Comment your thoughts down below. Do you believe it's really time for the Pittsburgh Steelers to panic? And as always, click the sub button and notification bell so you will not miss any of the videos that I post. But I am APW Sports signing out. Make sure you guys stay safe. Have a great and excellent day, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.